if you shoot with one of these, you're definitely going to want to watch this video. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Stu Clark. If you're like me, bird photographer, wildlife photographer, you most likely have one of these new telephoto zoom lenses in your closet. Even if you're shooting with the prime, you will probably have one of these new mega zooms. They are incredible lenses for close-up photography, and a lot of times I think that might get overlooked a little bit. Obviously they're super versatile. You know, this is the Nikon 200 to 500 on my Z8, and they are obviously great bird lenses, great wildlife lenses. You can back off 200 mil. But one of the things I think is most overlooked, especially when you're comparing it to one of the prime lenses, is how incredible the close focusing ability of these lenses is. This lens at 500 mil will focus to 7.2 feet. What that means is that, you know, if you compare that to a 1-to-1 macro lens, this one is a 0.22 times magnification. So it's almost a quarter of a macro lens. So it's not macro. It's not meant for insects. We'll shoot dragonflies really well. But when you're talking about things like reptiles, amphibians, any sort of flower photography, anything close up that's not macroscopic, they can be phenomenal. And it's utilizing one of the features on the Z8, on the Z9, Z6 III, I believe Z7. A lot of the Nikon bodies have it, and it's focus shift shooting, which is essentially focus stacking. And focus stacking, if you're like me, focus stacking, generally think it's about macro photography. You'll definitely use it for landscape photography, but in that case, it'll generally be two or three shots you stack together just to kind of get that foreground rock in focus as well as the waterfall. But with focus stacking, with this sort of setup, you can shoot anywhere. You can shoot up to 300 images and have them stacked in software later. So with these lenses, because they have such amazing close focus ability, but they're 500 mil, you end up with such a shallow depth of field. So it's always, you know, I go out to see a frog, I see a snake, toads, things like that. Take the photograph, you know, you focus on the eye, stop down to f8, f9, maybe f11. And you know, you'll get reasonable depth of field. You get the eye, you'll get some of the face in focus, but that's about it. And that's typically the way I've shot. I've been happy with it. It's fine. It works great. I'm not a huge macro photographer. I'm definitely more of a bird and wildlife. Well, the other day I came across this amazing western toad, and for some reason, just like, hey, you know what? Got some time. He was perfect subject, beautiful mossy spot he was sitting. So I figured, hey, let's try the focus shift shooting. Like I said, for some reason, I've always equated it to macro and just never thought of the close-up option with it, and I'm sure many of you haven't either. The image quality absolutely blew me away. So in that one, I'll show you the walkthrough of that one. I definitely way overshot it. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to go through and kind of take a look on a setup of how to determine how many shots you need to take with your lens. So any of the new mega zooms, we'll call them, the 100 to 400, 200 to 500, the 180 to 600, the 100 to 500 from Canon, Sony's. I'm not sure about the new 400, 800. I haven't looked at the specs on that one, but most of them have got excellent close focusing ability. Any lens that you're seeing is in the 0.25. So basically the quarter range will do an incredible job of this. And I believe, like I said, Nikon's definitely got the focus shift shooting, they call it. I imagine most of the other brands will have that as well. So if you're shooting with Sony or Canon, have a look on your camera. I'm sure you'll be able to do that as well. So at the end of this video, you can stay tuned to the end, and I'll basically do a walk through my yard of photographing a ruler to determine how much focus stacking you need to do. With this camera, with the focus shift on the Nikon, you basically have two main parameters: number of shots, and then the focus shift between shots. So number of shots, you can go from 2 to 300. So you can take an enormous amount of shots and get incredible amount of depth of field. Then you could also determine how wide you want the camera to jump between, how much you wanted the camera to adjust focus between shots. By chance, within my setup, what I'm noticing is that the 1 to 10 Basically, it's 1 millimeter to 10 millimeters, how it works out at minimum focus with this setup. Depending on your camera, what lens you're using will definitely be different than that. So that's where you want to test this. So what that means is that with this lens at minimum focus distance at f5.6, I have a depth of field of 4.5 millimeters. So definitely, if you haven't got it on your phone, I would definitely suggest go, and I've got Simply Depth of Field is the app I use. Simply Depth of Field is the app that I use. It's a great little app, and basically you can dial in the millimeters of your lens, the f-stop you plan on using, and then ideally you dial in the minimum focus distance of your lens. And I think that's a great starting point, because if you're trying to get close, that's obviously going to be the closest you want. And that will also be the tightest parameters that you want. Anything beyond that will give you a little bit more leeway. With the Nikon Z8, you basically got between 1 and 10 for that focus shift. And like I said, for me, it seems like 1 is a millimeter. So every shot adjusts a millimeter at the one side of it, the narrowest side, and at the widest side, every shot adjusts 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter. So what that means on the widest side, because I have a depth of field of 4.5 millimeters, if I adjust by 10 millimeters every time, I end up with soft gaps when I try and focus stack it. And you'll see that it's sharp, and then you've got a soft bit, and then so you're over jumping, so the focus shift is greater than the depth of field. And that's what we're going to want to measure. And like I said, at the end, we'll demonstrate how to do that. So with this one, with my lens, I'm at 4.5, at 5.6, at 7.1, I'm at about 6.5 millimeters. And at f8, which would probably, for this style of photography, I'd probably shoot it at f8 just to kind of maximize sharpness. I'm looking at 7 millimeters, 7.2 millimeters, or 0.72 centimeters. Basically, that means that when I'm adjusting that, how much do I want the focus shift to jump? I want to make sure I've got a margin of error under my depth of field, so that I'm not kind of jumping into a soft bit. I'm kind of stacking sharp sections. So what I'm going to be utilizing with this setup, I'm going to set the focus shift at 4. And that way, at my minimum focus distance, I know that I'm going to get sharp photos. So now, if you've got a focus stack of 4, it's going to be 4 millimeters. What that then means is, if I take 10 shots, it's going to be 40 millimeters, or 4 centimeters is the amount that's going to be in. That's how much the camera's going to shift for focus. If you take 100 shots, you're going to be at 40 centimeters. So that way, that gives you an idea of, you've got, you go from a little over a foot to a couple of inches. So this is a great way to determine. So once you do this, the test to determine how much you need to set that minimum focus shift at, you can then calculate based on how big your subject is. So that Western toad, the Western toad I was photographing the other day, he's probably 4 or 5 centimeters wide across, as opposed to lengthways. He's across his body. So that way I took 50 shots, and that was enough to get to the other side of him, and make sure that I've got his entire body in focus. So you go to the photo shooting menu, and it's down near the bottom, and it's got focus shift shooting. You click on that, and this will give you the options where you can set the number of shots. I've set it to 50. The focus step width, you can change that from narrow to wide. So if you're going to be shooting macro close-ups, you definitely want it to be on the narrower end. So I'm going to set that to 1. Interval to next shot, I want to make this, I want to have this shoot continuously right through. First frame exposure lock, so this way it will set the exposure at the first frame. So when you focus on it and you can set your exposure, it will set the exposure from that. And then from there, it's just a matter of, you basically go up to start. So you want to make sure that you're focused. See, right now I'm focused at the back of the subject. So you want to make sure you're focused in front of your subject a little bit. So when you can zoom in, you can see I'm focused quite a bit in front of him. So he's out of focus there, or she. So like I said, you want to make sure you're focused down here. So you focus. We're going to go back into the focus shift shooting, click on start, and then it automatically shoots a bunch of photos for you. And then when it's done, you can see how the focus is now to the back of the toad. It's very simple. When you get to the software side of it, it's really simple to set up. So yeah, it's if you haven't tried focus shift or focus stacking with a big lens, highly encourage it. So now we'll head onto the computer now and we'll take a look at how you basically open the photos in Lightroom. We take them over to Photoshop, and then we basically do a layer blend in Photoshop. Really simple, takes a bit of time, and that's why you want to make the effort to not just shoot everything at one and shoot out 200 photos, just get a lot of time involved in it. So trying to maximize the amount of photos you take to minimize the amount of time on the computer after. Okay, right now, let's head in and we'll go check out the computer and we'll show you how to stack it all. So let's take a look. We're going to jump onto Lightroom here and we'll walk through how to do this. You have to do this in Photoshop, but basically start with Lightroom. If you're not an Adobe user, you can definitely Helicon. I believe On One. There's definitely other softwares out there that you can use for focus stacking. But I've actually downloaded the demo for Helicon, and it seems to have some of the similar issues that Photoshop has, where not every bit will be in focus. Sometimes there will be bits missing. I know a lot of my friends that do a lot of the macro photography definitely prefer Helicon. We'll see how much I get into it. I've got a 30-day trial with Helicon, so I'll definitely give it a bit more of a go. But for right now, we'll use Photoshop and Lightroom because that's software I use 99% of the time. Okay, so let's jump into it. So one really important thing to do, and I didn't do it on this one, it's something you to really remember to do when you're playing with focus stacking, is before you start the focus stack, take a photo with your hand in front of the lens. You've got a dark frame prior to starting the focus stack so that when you're going in Lightroom, you know where the stack starts and ends. Makes your life a lot easier, especially if you're taking a few shots and then you're kind of setting it up and then you start this focus stack. There might be movement where, so you want to make sure that you know where you started your focus stack and make your life a lot easier. I've got these images, I've got two different focus stacks we'll take a look at. So this is the first one here. And if you take a look, you can see how I'm focused in front of the subject, a good portion. So you can see the focus starts about here. And then when we go to the final shot in this series, you can see how the focus is right at the back of the moss. So I've got a really nice depth of field that goes right to the back of the subject, but it doesn't go into the grasses behind. So you're not dealing with the grasses behind getting in focus, which a little bit more distracting than you'd like. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna select the 50. So I took 50 shots. You can see down the bottom here, it says 50 selected. We're gonna right click on them. We're gonna click on Edit In. And at the bottom here, we're gonna open as layers in Photoshop. You can just open these all up in Photoshop, but you're gonna have to do that step anyway when you get there. This will apply any of your Lightroom settings. And basically so what this is now doing is this is taking all of those photos, it's gonna open up Photoshop, and it's gonna basically put all of those images one on top of the other in Photoshop in one file. There's a bit of time involved in this, especially you're dealing with 50, 45 megapixel files. This is a reason to do the testing that we're going to, like I said, we'll go out in the yard and I'll kind of do a walkthrough of how to test it for your lens so you get an idea of how much depth of field, how many shots you need with each setting in order to get enough depth of field for your subject. Because if you could take 20 shots instead of 50 shots, it's a lot faster. And like I say, you don't want to be taking 200 shots. That'll take forever unless you need it. You can see it's definitely taking its time to upload the file, to load the files up here. Like I said, focus stacking there's a bit of time involved. So that's why you also want to make sure that things are as sharp as possible. You want to be locked down on a tripod. There's a lot of different, from the photo quality side of it, you just want to make sure that you've done everything you can to get the photo as sharp as possible. Okay, finally. So like I say, this is definitely, it takes a bit of time. So you really want to do the test that we'll do in a second here, just to determine how many photos you actually need to take. I said I way overshot this toad just playing. The results are fantastic, so you can't argue with that. But it was just unnecessary files. Having said that, Photoshop does utilize almost every single one of these 50 files in building the final in focus photograph. So it utilized them all anyway. So if you can see here, I've got the 50 layers all lined up down here. Okay, so it's actually quite simple now. What we're going to do, you're going to shift click. So you're going to shift click on the top one, and you're going to scroll to the bottom. You're going to click on the bottom one. So now you've got all the layers selected. We're going to go up to Edit, and down here to Auto Blend Layers. So this is, you definitely want to have shot on a tripod for this. I'm going to click on Auto Blend Layers. We've got the option of panorama or stack images. We're going to stack images. And this is basically, like I said, Photoshop is going to take the in focus part of every layer and make that the visible part of the final photograph. So you're basically going to click OK, hit OK. And again, it's going to take a few minutes depending on how many photos you've used, how fast your computer is. So basically what Photoshop is doing here, it's creating a layer mask on every single layer, removing everything from each layer except for the sharpest bit, except for where it's perfectly in focus. Because of that, it's not perfect. It's really good, but it's not perfect. I think for the scope of this video, we won't touch on how to fix it. I'll do that in a later video, just because you have to basically go in and pick different layers in order to delete or remove portions of the file. And this is also one because the toad is breathing underneath its throat. That will get a little bit blurred out as well because Photoshop's trying to look at if it's got movement in there. So this is definitely something that works best with zero movement. You know, on a windy day, forget it. This is definitely a static subject, as little movement as possible. With this toad, like I said, with the movement, you get a bit of anomalies in the final edit. You could quickly go in and pull, you basically look for the layer where the throat is in focus and just basically put that as the top. You kind of mask in that top portion. I said, but I'll do that in a future video. Leave a comment down below if you want to see how I do that. So basically what Photoshop has done here now, you can see how it is basically you can see how sharp this photo is now. So you can see all of the detail throughout the image is now sharp. And you say what's amazing is how it goes to the mosses in the background. That definitely pulled, because it's now pulling up this end photograph is the background. There's a little bit more grasses showing than had it utilized the front photograph for that. And you could definitely manually go in and blend that if you wanted. There's a lot of, you can do this manually if you wanted to. You can go through, and if you have an amazing photograph and you want to make it perfect, for sure, you can go in and manually do it. For the sake of this, like I said, for the sake of the tutorial, we're just going to do the quick version here. So where you'll notice, and like I say, even at 100%, you might not even see it. You might have to go to 200%. But it'll be some of the edges where you might notice some anomalies that you can see right here. You can see how it's a little bit soft in this portion here. In between here, it's not as focused as there. And those are the things that you might, you can see the outside edge here because there's a little bit of movement where it's kind of cropped in on the face a little bit. So there's definitely a little bit of work to be done after the fact. I said I need to play with Helicon a little bit more, but I know my first kind of playing with Helicon, I noticed it did similar things. So if it does similar things, I'll just use Photoshop. I'm just a lot more familiar with it. But even, like I said, underneath the mouth here, where it's breathing, it's kind of, you can see there's a couple little stuttered lines there. So there's definitely some things that need to be fixed. And like I said, I'll leave that as a separate video. But you can just see how incredible this is. So what's really nice now is, this is now a single layer on top. So you can if you undo it, this is now, you can see how the layer mask, these are the portions of each of the layers that are showing, and then it's combined them all into a single layer on top. What's really nice about having a single layer on top, I can now run this through Topaz Sharpen. So I can actually put the sharpening on the single file on top that's been edited as one. So if you are doing focus stacking, RAM is your best friend. I've got about 64 gigabytes of RAM on this system. You're definitely and you're also a large scratch disk. You definitely want to make sure you've got an allocated scratch disk, ideally not your C drive, especially if you don't have a lot of room on a C drive. Ideally, you want to have a fast SSD as a scratch disk, and that will help speed up a lot of this process. But now after running that through Sharpen, you can just see how much detail is in this image. It's absolutely phenomenal. They said, and this is the Nikon 200 to 500, so this is an F mount. This is not a Z mount on my Nikon Z8. So this is using the FTZ adapter. So this absolutely works with the older lenses. But this just gives you an idea of just how incredible this technology is. Like I say, there's some work on it, but that's fine. But yeah, if you compare that to, so you can see this is a shot that was a single photograph, and you can see how quickly the depth of field is lost. How you've got just the shoulder, and then quickly you get any of the body is out of focus. Comparing it to this shot here. So yeah, I figured it's worth sharing. It's something for whatever reason. I knew the cameras did it. I knew focus stacking said, but I always aligned it more as a macro feature. And this just is absolutely incredible. Like I said, these super telephoto zooms are just amazing close-up lenses. And almost everybody nowadays, if you're a wildlife photographer, you probably own one. Even if you're shooting with primes, you probably own one of these lenses just because they're so inexpensive. They're so sharp, as you can see from this image here. And they're so versatile. That close-up feature, I would struggle to shoot primes in a lot of situations just because you're losing that close-up feature. The 600-6.3 from Nikon, it's a 0.15 times magnification, so it's about half the magnification of this lens. And it's just so you're backed off again. And this is just, it's pretty stunning output from this. So I figured, yeah, some of you, if you've got this lens and you haven't thought about utilizing this feature on all the Nikon cameras, this most of the Canons will have it, and most Sonys will also have focus stacking features as well as part of the software. So this is not exclusive to Nikon. I'm not familiar with how to set those cameras up, so you definitely have to do a bit of research on your own how to do that. But all of the zoom lenses from all the companies will do great close-ups. So yeah, so let's run out to the yard, and I'm doing a quick example of how to do the test, so you can figure out how many shots you need in order to kind of gain a certain X amount of depth of field for your photographs. Okay, let's head out for that.